Hi everyone! Editing Faith here to correct an error that you'll hear in this episode. We say that Hana Yori Dango Returns came out in 2008, but it actually came out in 2007. Sorry about that. Now, please enjoy the show.
Here on Accidental Kiss, we try our best to do this. Analyze Asian dramas and not relive the trauma. Now that you know what's in store, just sit back and tune in more. Please enjoy our podcast, Accidental Kiss.
Welcome to Accidental Kiss. On this podcast, we analyze the representation, or lack thereof, in Asian dramas from the perspective of drama fans. I'm Watanya, I'm Lao/Laotian, whichever term you prefer, and I basically grew up with Asian dramas.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Faith. I'm a Black U.S. citizen who was maybe a little too obsessed with Asian dramas in her college days, but now wants to rekindle her love for them through this podcast.
In this part, we're going to continue discussing the representation in Hana Yori Dango Returns.
We will be talking about class, race, sexuality, disability, and mental health. Before we move on, we will be discussing the entirety of many characters, so spoilers ahead.
Also, we will be discussing emotional abuse, parental neglect, bullying, manipulation, attempted sexual assault, fake suicide, and actual attempted suicide in this part.
So if you're sensitive to these issues, which is more than understandable, do prioritize your mental health and overall well-being.
We will start with the representation of class. So, as a disclaimer that I'm just gonna put here, the plot changes so often that it gets confusing to define what is what. The messages about class in the series are, like I said, confusing, quite mixed. And if you listen to part 1, you will know that I used the phrase goddess on cocaine. This is why.
Okay. So, for example, one of those very confusing things are that rich people attend fancy parties, speak foreign languages, and have every luxury imaginable, but are apparently not as strong as poor people, i.e. Squishy. You know, she's tough because she's poor. But we also see that poor people like Squishy's family are portrayed as incompetent and pretty much not able to survive in the world. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but they can barely survive, as, seaweed eating people on the seaside. Yeah, that's her family. That's Tsukushi's family. But Tsukushi herself refuses to receive handouts.
Quote unquote.
Or quote unquote handouts, what she considers as
Except
handouts.
for when she does.
And has to work till the point.
Except for when she does receive handouts, but okay. You go on.
Oh, you mean the apartment?
Well, I mean, so it's like there's the apartment. There's also she's gotten money from, she's gone on trips with, F4 and Tsukasa. She's, been given things by them that I'm sure she thinks.
Oh yeah, the beginning of the series is her flying to New York for free.
Yeah, right? And I mean, I guess it's not a handout because they want it fair and square, right? So I guess it's not a handout. I guess that's not a handout, Watanya.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. I was just remembering all that happened. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but yeah, she most of the time she has to work until the point of overexhaustion.
Also, corporations and their existences are never really challenged in this world. In fact, wealthy corporations, according to this drama, wealthy corporations need to stay wealthy and in power to support the economy. So I remember when the Domuji group was facing financial, I guess, ruin. I don't even know if it was really ruin. It was probably just they wouldn't be as rich, but I don't know. But apparently it was going to be bad. People were really nervous because that meant it was going to disrupt the economy, which, is a thing definitely a thing, and it is a reality, you know, of our own world. But no one ever even thinks to like question, like, should corporations have this much power to affect every single person's livelihood and well-being? Like, like maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe we should not let them be that powerful. But no one questions that.
They worked hard to earn their
Oh God.
money, right?
Okay, sure, Tanya. Of course. Yeah, all of them worked really hard. Didn't exploit or use people at all. Okay, and and then in addition to that, Tsukushi and Tsukasa's relationship actually affects Yuki's family's financial situation, since the Domyuji group wasn't able to merge with the Okawahara group due to, you know, Tsukasa choosing Tsukushi over Shigeru. And so because of that, like, I guess one of Yuki's, her father's jobs, I guess, was under the Domyuji group, because it's a huge group and it like owns a lot of different companies and stuff. And so I'm sure some place he was working at was under them, and because they were affected by that, his financial situation also going to be affected by it. And so, yeah, I guess ruin your friend's family financial situation for love.
Hormones.
For hormones. Yes.
But yeah, but at the same time, like a CEO of like a small business, I think it's IT, attempts to commit suicide because he can't find investors for his product. Thankfully, Tsukushi finds him at the most, like, you know, convenient or crucial
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's drama land. Everything's crucial.
Oh yes, it's true. That's true.
But yeah, Tsukushi convinces him to live on by. I'm really not sure what she did, but it was like bragging.
I remember this very, very well because I just watched it so recently. Like I watched it like last month. So like I remember, or this month, that maybe, I don't know, last month, this month, I don't know. I watched it very recently, and so I remember her like talking to him and being like, well, my family, like, you think you have it hard, well, my family is the poorest family in Japan. And it was like she was bragging about it, and I was
the Pain Olympics.
My pain is worse than yours.
But yeah, apparently that saved him.
He felt bad for her. He was like, well, she's got it worse than me, so I guess I should live. Like, it's like, well, at least I'm not her.
Children in Africa don't have food,
so I guess I should live then. I don't know, actually.
I don't know. It's a weird logic.
Well, at least he didn't commit suicide. That's all I can say. And I'm glad he didn't.
Me too.
I'm glad he didn't traumatize a high school girl. Oh God, for life. Oh, okay. And Tama. So what I also found interesting and kind of like, I wouldn't say contradictory, but I found it kind of interesting, is that even though, of course, you know, the rich or, you know, the powerful ones and their servants are, you know, usually the less powerful ones, the people who were being controlled by the rich, right? But in terms of, like, when it comes to some servants, though, like Tama, who has lived with the family for generations, she has more say in the Domyuji household than even Kaede, who's like the head right now, right? Well, pretty much. I mean, we never see the father, so we just assume. And so sometimes even the help, you know, quote unquote, can have even more actual power, like, and influence than their bosses. So it is possible. Sometimes the power dynamics are not so cut and dry. So that was interesting. And speaking of other servants who have more influence than they let on, Nishida is a great ally for Tsukushi and Tsukasa, and he has a bit more leverage than you would expect him, being, you know, the personal assistant to Kaede. He's able to get a lot of things done. He's able to do things even behind her back, you know, without her knowing sometimes. So he has influence and he does have some power, even though he is a pretty much, well, a servant.
Reminds me a bit of you know, Itaewon Class, the second female lead. Like, she was working for, like, the slime. Oh my God.
Yes.
Even
The literal
him.
slime.
I just call him slime.
Literal slime. I think, I know the family name, I think, was like,
Zhang.
what? Zhang or something? Yeah, maybe Chairman Zhang.
Yeah, because I remember hearing, not hearing, because I was listening, and the company name is Changka, so it's like Chang, right? Zhang or Chang.
Like, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Zhang, I think. Yeah.
The second female lead had quite a bit of power, even though she was just like a secretary there, I believe.
Yeah, she did have a lot of influence and power.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is interesting how the power dynamics can be very different depending on like it's not necessarily like boss is always on top, you know.
But yeah, this is sorry for the sidetrack. Back to the thing we were talking about. Like, I feel like the class dynamic in the series specifically is all like plot convenient stuff.
Of course.
But like, there's one thing that never ever changes. That's like, the narrative will not allow Tsukushi and Tsukasa to live a life without his enormous wealth. Like, the whole point of the show ends up being like Tsukushi getting with Tsukasa, with the rich guy, and change him for the better. Debatable.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it's like, no matter what kind of message you want to get from this show, what kind of like, you know, cookie cutter, like money isn't everything, or like poor people are resilient, and like, you know, Tsukushi is really tough and strong, so she can survive no matter what. Whatever message you take, the point, the thing is, in the end, she will end up with the really rich guy and end up like falling right into the same capitalism, you know, trap that all the rest of us do, and just get a whole bunch of money and live a life of luxury for the rest of her life, pretty much. So she's like, it's like the story wasn't going to go any other way. Like, it doesn't matter how much they talk a nice, you know, talk a good game, but like, it's all about her getting this fortune. And so I remember, actually, what I found interesting in this version is actually there is a point where Tsukasa even says like he's willing to give up his fortune. Like, I remember which is weird because this is like right after they have the big like in the rain scene where she's like, the mother has like told her, okay, if you want like the financial situations, I guess, of the people you love to be okay, and you need to break up with Tsukasa for like, you know, the 20th time. And so she goes in the rain and she's like, okay, I'm going to leave your house that I was staying in because I had nowhere else to live. And I'm going to finally leave now. And so, you know, she lies to him and says she's never loved him or whatever, or like she doesn't really love him, blah, 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 blah. And then literally the next episode, he's over there in the fishing village where she goes to with her parents and is like, hey, I'm fine with leaving my wealth. I just want to be with you and stuff, which is kind of sweet.
He says that as he is riding his like private helicopter.
Exactly. I mean, he obviously hasn't thought this through, but he did at least say he was willing to do it. Now, would he actually survive and actually be able to continue it for the rest of his life? I don't know. Probably not. But still, he made the gesture, and that is more than like the show will let him do. It's like, I actually would have liked that. I actually want to see a version where they end up living in, you know, pretty much poverty together, but they have their love. I want to see that version.
Ooh,
because I'm just like,
off.
you know, yes, I would love to see that version where he's like, you know what, I'm gonna give up all my wealth because I just want to be with you. And, you know, my mom is like, you know, we can't be together because I'm the successor to the Domuji or whatever group. Then I'll just leave it. And she can just not have anyone to see. I guess she'll have to find someone else, like find a cousin or someone. But like, you know, I just won't be it. And we go live in poverty and obscurity and just be in love or whatever, you know. I want to see that story. Where's that story at? But they're not going to do that story because, you know, like you said, the whole point is for her to get the fortune. And so the story just, yeah, they're not going to allow it. They're just not going to allow it. It can't happen.
No. And speaking of things that cannot happen, sadly, let's look at the representation of race.
Nice segue.
Thank you.
Well, we'll start with the least offensive group, I guess. Yeah, let's go with that. So we'll start with white people. So, as usual, pretty much anyone who's not Japanese is going to be a background character. That's pretty much guaranteed in most of these shows, which, you know, not always bad, but sometimes they're put into very set categories of people, and it just kind of gets cliche and tiresome, and, you know, be nice if they change it up a little bit. But anyway, so the white people in Hana Yori Dango 2 are background people in New York City. Of course, you gotta have some people. I mean, it's America. There's some white people. So yeah, there's white people and there's black people. There's different types of people, but yeah, mostly white people. Also, we see a lot of white people at the fancy parties, of course, because, white equals wealth. So they want to show how wealthy they are by having a bunch of white people surrounding them. And then white people are also in the background of some of the fancy restaurants, like, apparently, they're just, I guess, white people, wherever you find something fancy or rich, white people will be there. And then also the Domuji family drivers and bodyguards and other servants, like, some of them are white, especially, like, in New York, because it's America. So, like, they're just, some of them just happen to be white. And then there's, like, a school teacher who was white. Like, I guess one teacher they decided to show.
I don't remember who, but
I think there was a school. Yeah. I remember there was a teacher. I don't know what they taught because it's so rare. It's so rare to actually see a teacher in these schools.
That's probably English.
But yeah, I that's what you think. That's what you would think. So probably, but like there was one white teacher, and so the white person got to be the teacher. And also, as we mentioned before, Sakurako's boyfriend was also white, Australian. That's cool. I guess it's cool to be white, so she had to bring him and be like, look at my cool white boyfriend. Also, actually, this was really interesting that I noticed when I like rewatched it for like, the seventh time. So Tsukushi, when she has like, when she's like stuck out in the snow because like, Umi tried to kill her, and she's like, just laying in the snow because, she's freezing outside and she's starting to get hypothermia and like she's like dying and she's, just like about to fall asleep, right? Because she's like in the snow and she's cold and like, whatever. And she has this dream where she like dreams of all the stuff she wants to do in the future because, she feels like she's about to die because she would have had Tsukasa not saved her. And so she has a dream about being a lawyer. And then one of the other dreams she has is getting married. And the priest in her marriage dream is a white guy. So that's just like, I guess, the standard for Japanese people. They just assume like their priests at their Western style wedding will be a white guy. So I guess it's just a default because like it was just in her dream, which I found very interesting. And then last, there are some white people like on the streets, apparently in Tokyo, which actually I was surprised. I assumed it would be America, but no, this is when Domuji's in Tokyo, and they do show some white and black people on the street for him to beat up, to beat the shit out of. They're there.
Oh yeah. It's the is that the fashion in Japan line thing?
Oh yeah, that's in your section. Like I put the actual quote, but
okay.
That's for you. That's you
well,
get that quote
since we're here and we're talking about black people, let's talk about black people. Faith, I don't know why you had me.
I don't know. Hey. I will chime in a lot.
Okay.
So don't worry about
it. So the representation of black people is very interesting.
Interesting.
So, first, the very first black person we kind of get to see, well, like, on the streets of New York, of course, there were some, like, people in the background who are, like, white, black, all kinds of ethnicities. But the first person that was, like, on screen and, like, the screen kind of focused on them was, the thief that, like...
Yes.
like took Tsukushi's backpack, and like it was interesting because instead of just grabbing the backpack and just leaving, no, he had to turn around.
All right, to be fair, I think he did bump into someone, so that's why, but still, like he did not just a turn, he did like a full 180. Like he went all the way back around just so she could see that bag in slow-mo, like back. Okay, and go back.
Yeah, and
worst thief ever.
As a result of that, she meets the basketball gang.
My favorite gang. This is my favorite, like, non-Asian cameo in an Asian drama ever. Like, this is my favorite. Like, nothing can top this. Like, nothing.
You from Japan or something? But yeah, the basketball gang, we call him that because it's 4 black guys, and they approach Tsukushi, and she tries to talk to them, and they're like, "You from Japan or something?" Which is Faith's favorite line of all time.
I love that line. I love that line. Love that line so much.
And then
it's got so many layers.
And then they assaulted her with a basketball that they just randomly had.
Yes.
And,
I mean,
oh, go on.
I'm sorry. I just think it's hilarious because, like, okay, no, I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish the whole thing, and then I'll come back and go over it because there's just so much.
I'm just gonna mention that my reaction to this was can be
we actually have we have recorded footage of this.
Yes, it can be described as horrified. And so when I watched it, I was horrified. And I sent Faith a voice message because
we have audio. We have audio proof.
My hands were shaking too much to text, and we have the audio. And yeah, maybe we'll post it. Maybe we will actually put it in this episode.
Yeah, maybe, or we could put it in a separate thing on social media. We'll see.
And like they were kind of like making these people to be like really bad, scary, like, you know, gangsters. Yeah. But when Rui came to save Tsukushi, they couldn't tell the difference between a water gun and a real gun, even though the water gun like has like an orange part. Like,
yeah, it had like an orange circle where the bullets should go out of, like, where the bullets should come from. The part that they would see. The part that they would see had an orange circle. And these gangsters couldn't tell. So that's the thing. Like, this is what I love and hate about this scene. I absolutely, this is a love-hate relationship. Like, I totally hate this scene, but also really love it. Because it's like so many layers of like racism, ignorance, and like this is exactly what Japanese people think New York is like. Like, you know, this is what they think it's like. It's like you think the general Japanese population is like, yes, okay, New York, America is dangerous and they have guns, but we can't have them be in real danger because like we can't have them have real guns because, you know, it's Japan and we don't do that. And so instead what they decided to do is like, we're gonna have these gangsters, but they're not gonna have an actual gun because we don't want an actual gun fight. But we've got to make them intimidating. So it's like, okay, we'll get these big black guys and we'll give them a basketball. Black people do basketball, right? They play basketball. And so we'll give them a basketball. And it's like, they'll throw the basketball at her. It's like, okay. And then, of course, they try to mug her, too. So they're trying to take her money and stuff, too. Because, you know, that's all, you know, from the thief in the beginning, all we see is black people. They like to steal, right? And so it's terrifying, but it's like not too terrifying, because if it's too terrifying, then her and Rui would have actually died. Because if they had real guns, they would have known his fake gun was fake, which they should have known anyway. But and they would have shot him, because he would have shot and nothing would have came out, and they would have shot and he would have been dead. And so they make him just safe enough that like there's no real threat, but at the same time, like, to their livelihoods, no real threat to their livelihoods, but at the same time, it's like, oh, but they're so scary, and they steal, and they're black, and they have a basketball, and they're speaking in some weird, like, gang, like, language, like, slang that I don't understand, and, like, you know, it's just, there's just so many layers to it, like, it's just so much that, like, I can never not remember this scene. I could never ever forget it. Like it's stuck in my mind. I love this series. I really do, you know, for the most part. But this scene is just like bad on so many levels. And it's like, there should have been so many conversations that happened before this crap was released. But they did not happen, of course, because they were just like, well, this is America. There's black people, they steal. And it's like, okay, yeah, there are black people who steal, especially in New York. I mean, a lot of people steal in New York. Yes, that is very true. But when that's like the only black people in your show, really, for the most part, the only people with like lines, really, it's not the best representation of black people. And
speaking of lines, like, from listening to you talk about it, one thing kind of popped into my mind. So, before, you know, this whole thing, Tsukushi talks to like a white guy, right?
Yes.
The script was very weird.
Oh yeah, that white guy. I forgot to mention him. He was
yes,
fun. He was fun
the
too.
I am Buzz guy.
The guy who gestured everything he said.
Yeah.
It was like he was teaching.
Yeah,
like,
he gestured everything
English.
he said, and he spoke in a very deliberate way.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't say it was articulate. It felt like really. I mean, it's not that it wasn't articulate. Like it was like so deliberate that it feels weird.
Yes,
listening
it was
to
uncomfortable. It was very like, if you actually know English, it's really weird. Like, it's like, why would you talk like this?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's like, are you okay, sir? Like,
yeah. And yeah, it's like he's Google Translate.
I guess.
And compare that to the lines of the basketball gang. The basketball gang were, I mean, they had one strange line that was like, you're from Japan or something. But everything else, maybe it was ad-libbed, but
I feel like it was. It felt kind of ad-libbed.
Yeah.
I don't know. If these actors are listening, if any of you extra actors from Hana Yori Dango are listening and wanna, let us know, chime in, let us know. We'd love to know.
Yeah.
Did you ad-lib those?
Yeah, because it sounded natural.
It sounded, it was definitely way more natural than that white guy. Like, way more. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still kind of weird because the slang that they used was very outdated and very like, this is probably what, like, actually, I feel like in the U.S. this is what white Americans think Black people talk like. That's what it sounded like. It was very much like outdated slang. This is what we think slang. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was slang. And like at some point in the in time, this was probably kind of like the hip slang or whatever. But the slang they used, that they were like, you try to get down, you try to do this, like this kind of stuff is like, yeah, people say it, but it's like, it was very much like, this is what other people think we say now, but it's like, it's very much catered to like a non-Black audience.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, it's not like wrong per se, but it is like, but we can tell like, okay, it's weird. Like the way he's talking is kind of strange.
I mean, the series did come out in 2008.
Yeah, but it was outdated then too. Though. It was already outdated. It was already outdated. Like, cause it's like you trying to get down to something. Like, just the way he talked was weird. Like what he said was just weird. Like the words he used were very strange. And like, I'm not saying people don't use those words, because he seemed like he was kind of older anyway, so maybe he uses those words. But like for a younger audience in 2008. Those were kind of outdated. Those were definitely outdated slang words. And like, but the thing is, it's Japan, so they don't know. Like, you can say whatever you want, right? It was just weird and very uncomfortable. But I do feel like it was more natural, way more natural than the white guy, definitely.
Guy.
Way more.
Way more.
Yeah, way more. Way more natural.
Yeah, just wanted to add that.
That's true.
Side note.
That's true. That's a good point.
And I don't know if like we should celebrate, if we should be happy about this, but so there is actually a Black teacher.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
There is actually a Black teacher. But he teaches Shigeru personally to make chocolate.
Yeah. He's a chocolate chef, okay? I'm going to take what I can get, Watanya. I'm going to take what I could get. This is a drama, came out in 2008. I will take what I can get. Look, it's a Black guy who is a chocolate chef. I mean, come on. Like, usually they'd be like, he'd be a butler or like a servant or like a I don't know, what, a bouncer or something. Like, come on, they let him be a chef.
We already had a thief and 4 muggers.
I know, come on. We needed this, Watanya. The Black community needed this, okay? We really needed this.
Okay. And we also have street thugs. Look at this collection.
See, the chef is very important. A very important role, Watanya. Even though we barely see him, he's literally like in like a flash a second, and then he says, I think he says like maybe one thing, and then like we totally ignore him after that. But
I barely remember.
I think he had a line. I really actually don't know, but I think he did. Maybe. I hope so. I really hope so.
We're just gonna pretend he did.
Yes. For my sake. For all the Black community. Everywhere. All Black communities everywhere.
Yes. But yeah, back to the street thugs. Tsukasa, because it's Tsukasa, he goes around fighting like people,
Yeah.
and he met some street thugs, which was two black guys and a white guy, and I
I
believe
guess they put the white
these
guy in there to
lines-
be fair. I don't know. I
I
don't know.
believe these lines were spoken by these thugs and not people on the street, which is like, "Stopped fashion in Japan. Looks like Lionel Richie."
In reference to his hair.
Oh
And to
no!
the curly hair. The curly hair. It was the perm. The perm.
Oh my god!
I mean, don't get me wrong. They're not wrong. I mean, he does like an 80s like kind of perm. Like it does have that 80s feel. I get it.
It's a fair comment.
I get it. I think someone would say this. I do think a random black guy on the street might say this. It is possible. But and okay, like I said before, I will give them props for allowing non-Japanese people to be on the streets in Japan. For allowing us to exist. I think that's progress for a Japanese drama. Like
Hashtag diversity.
Unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean they were just there to get like, have the shit beaten out of them. But they were there. They were there, Tanya. They were there.
Yes, Faith, we exist in Japan.
And we get beat the shit out of all the time.
Yes, we can have our ass kicked by a rich kid.
Yes! Oh my god, I just love this positive representation.
Apart from that, there were like a few black along with like white and like other undefined ethnicities on the street.
I mean,
it sounds weird to say like undefined ethnicities, but like as in like we see them in the background, so we don't know their ethnicity.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Like I mean, it could be many things, sometimes. Yeah, like it's this kind of representation, quote that kind of makes me wonder: is it sometimes good to just not have representation? I don't know. Like I don't know. Like was this representation actually more harmful than it was worth? I think the answer is yes. I say yes. Except for the chef. The chef's okay. Chef's alright. Chef's okay.
Yes, he just had to be a chocolate chef.
Yes.
That's all.
That sounds horrible when you just say it like that. Okay. Alright. Moving on. For some reason, yeah, I gave you the black people section and now I'm getting the other Asians.
Yeah. No, I'm fine with doing it. It's just like I thought you.
Oh, I did, but I think I just changed it around. I don't know why I did that, honestly, but it's fine. I got to say what I wanted to say, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, we're still interacting in either way.
So the other Asians, actually, in this version, we do get another Asian. I mean, he is still Japanese, but he's he's Japanese American, so he's a little different from like, the typical Japanese person that lives in Japan and was born and raised in Japan. It is a bit different, a little bit.
Banzai.
Yes. So he's Pin Banzai Uchida. So I call him that because like before he like committed suicide. Apparently, he fake committed suicide. He apparently went Banzai. Like, he just went like Banzai. I don't know why, but he went Banzai and then he committed suicide. I know it's a thing that like, in Japan it's like hooray or like you're celebrating something, but
he's Japanese American.
And also he was committing suicide, so it's weird. It was weird. But I guess it was just like a very like distinct visual for the flashbacks, for Tsukasa's flashbacks to see this guy going Banzai, okay, and now I'm dead. Like it's like, oh god. I don't know, but Jesus. He said bonsai a lot. And also, I looked up the actor. The actor himself is actually not American. He actually was born and raised here. But I guess it's good. At least they they acknowledge that Japanese Americans exist. And that's pretty good.
Yes. They acknowledge that dual citizenship is a thing.
Is it? Tanya at his age? Is it a thing?
They allowed it for 20
Okay.
years.
But I'm sure he's older than that, though. I'm sure that actor is definitely older than that.
I
Much
know.
older than that.
I'm sure he is. But when Ken was a kid, he had dual citizenship for 20 years.
And then he...
That is all that matters.
And then he probably... Okay, anyway. I don't want to reveal the secrets. I don't want to reveal the trade secrets, but...
yeah. Some people were like the existence of a group of people was acknowledged, but not another group.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, he was, even though he was just there to do the fake suicide for the most part, he did have a relationship with the male lead, so I guess that's good. It's a good-ish representation, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, let's get it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any other? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, do you think there's anything they could have done better with his representation? I don't know.
No, I mean,
I don't know.
If you want to add something, and I wouldn't say this is grasping at straws. Only kind of. But Shigeru, I would say she is Kikoku Shicho.
Ah, that's true, because she was in the U.S., right?
Yeah, she at least spent quite a bit of time in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think her family's business also is, like, I guess centered in the U.S. or something like that. Like, they were talking about they're really, big in the U.S., so... Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, well, there you go. Some more representation.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Kikoku Shicho means a Japanese person that is doesn't really matter where they were born, but like they're raised in like a country outside of Japan, and they return to Japan. So basically, like returnees.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. I never thought about that because no one ever mentions it, and I didn't even think about it. But yeah, you're right. She probably kind of is. Maybe. I don't know. It's
at least culturally.
Yeah. Sort of. Kind of.
Hey everyone! Editing Faith popping in again to add some other Asian representation that we forgot to mention. As we said in our Hana Yori Dango 1 episode, Abe Tsuyoshi, the actor who plays the character Akira, is actually Chinese-Japanese. He was born in China and can speak both Mandarin and Japanese fluently. Hana Yori Dango was his first Japanese drama.
Okay, all right. And of course, as per usual, there is no indigenous representation in this show.
Speaking of no representation.
Okay.
We're gonna move on to sexuality and homo/transphobia. Hopefully we won't have to discuss the latter. But anytime.
Well, if it doesn't exist, so Tanya, then you don't have to discuss it. If there's no homosexual people, there can't be any homophobia.
Yeah. And we wouldn't. Originally, we weren't gonna like discuss this, but because of your eagle eye, Faith, we're grasping at straws here.
Yes.
But Faith was rewatching the series, and she noticed. She noticed that Tsukushi wears the Rocky Horror Picture Show shirt.
That's our, I guess trans or LGBTQ queer representation. Yeah,
queer acknowledgement.
Yes, that's the representation. That's all we got. That's it. Yeah, unfortunately. So the sexuality section was pretty lacking, but we've got a lot to talk about in the disability and mental health section.
You can. Yeah.
Yes.
Before we move on to the rest of the representation in this episode, we would like to take this time to thank all of you for listening to our podcast. It really means a lot to us.
If you enjoy our show, please consider rating and reviewing us on your favorite podcast app. It would really help our podcast reach a wider audience.
And we would also just love to hear your thoughts on our podcast. It will help us know what we're doing well and what we could improve. And also, it will make us feel less like speaking into the void.
So, leave us a review today on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Accidental kiss. Now, back to the podcast.
So let's start off with physical disabilities. So in this season, we actually do get one person who has a physical disability, though it is not permanent. Umi, when we first meet her in the hospital, she has a crutch. She seems to have injured her leg or something, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. It's not very clear, but I'm assuming she injured a leg. But then she is seen without it like the next day. So it seems like she recovered pretty quickly, or maybe she had been in the hospital for a long time and now she's just recovered. I don't know, but she recovered pretty much as soon as the plot was in her area. Like it was like, oh, you're important to the story now. Okay,
Oh my
disability
God.
gone.
This like kind of shows it speaks volumes about how like people with disabilities are treated.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's like it would have been cool to have like I guess, I mean, you're right. I'm always against the weird like random let's insert a love rival here to like mix up the story and make it more like give it more attention or whatever. I really hate that stuff, but it would have been cool to have an actually like, you know, disabled like love interest, like someone who was like, you know, a love rival and actually had a chance and had a disability. That would have been really cool to see, because you never see
disabled people. And I believe we kind of talked about this in the last episode too. Like disabled people do like experience romantic and sexual feelings.
They are human beings.
Yeah, they are human beings. I mean, like some people might not experience romantic or sexual feelings, but like everyone is still human. Some people do, some people don't.
Yeah,
so, like,
exactly.
Yeah, it would be better if like we well, not we, but like, you know, dramas kind of show that, because these dramas kind of give people the impression that it's like real life ish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So that's just like.
Oh, well, also, sorry, I have
note.
other side that I just thought about right now related to this. So it seems like in these shows, the only disability that's acceptable is being deaf, because that way you can still see and you can still be like, I guess, you know, what they consider bangable. But
oh my god,
but you can't hear. So like, you know, it's a disability, right? It's like the most acceptable disability they'll allow, because they don't want it to be too like physical to where like you can't use like an arm or a leg or something, but because, you know, that doesn't look as, I guess, sexy or whatever. But you can not hear, and that's fine, because then they help you or whatever. Because that's what I've noticed. Like, I've noticed, like, if there is a love interest that has a disability, like, you know, I mean, I know this sounds really horrible because it is, but like, because it is.
Do you know
But this is
how
what I've
horrified
noticed.
I am?
This is what I've noticed from like just, you know, watching a lot of TV and a lot of shows, is that if they do have a love interest who has a disability, if it's going to be, I guess, a physical one, it's going to be something that you can't see. Like, it's going to be like, oh, they're deaf or they're mute, you know, or something like that. Like they can't have like a physical, like a very obviously physical disability. Like, it can't be like, oh, they can't walk or something like that. Like that. That's usually off the table. Usually in most of these shows. Not all of them. Of course, there are a few, but like very rare. Usually if they're going to have a disability, it's got to be something like, that's what I've noticed. They're like either, actually one of the dramas I told you about that we're going to have to talk on this podcast about one day. Smile, the one that's about the like,
oh my god,
Matsumoto Jun, actually the actor from this show, actually, who's the male lead in this show, playing a half Filipino, half Japanese character, even though he's not Filipino in any way.
I saw the first 5 minutes of the first episode, and I was like, oh no.
And I think the love interest, I remember the love interest in that one is mute. I think she's mute.
Okay.
And so she's able to be mute, and that's fine, because, you know, she still looks, you know, quote unquote normal, I guess you could say, right? I mean, that's just what I've noticed. Like, just observation.
A very sad realization.
Yes.
But yeah, just a very tiny side note to that side note.
Side note. Yes.
Yeah, because I can't remember who told me, but maybe referring to people like that love interest, it might be better to say like is unable to produce like verbal sounds or something, but I can't remember. I should
I see.
update the way I speak.
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. I didn't know, but thank you.
Yeah, no
for
worries.
sharing that. Yeah,
we gotta like always be
yes,
growing,
yes,
right?
yes. Of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you listeners know the correct terminology, I mean, we'll look it up and try to find out. But like, definitely let us know because
Yeah,
we're
because
trying to do better.
Because when we learn, because we are both millennials. I'm a very very young millennial. I'm like on the border, but we're both millennials. So like the terms we learned, when we learned them, they were normal, quote unquote normal.
Yes.
But right now it's some of them are considered offensive or inappropriate. So we would wanna like update our vocabulary.
Oh yeah, definitely. Please, yeah, just like we had last time in our last episode about the R word, that used to be I wouldn't say acceptable, but it used to be much more common than it is now. So yeah, definitely. Like, please let us know what to say, what we can say. I will definitely like change the way I speak from now on because I don't want to be offensive to people from that community.
Yeah, and a lot of people confuse this with like political correctness. I think it's more about respect.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Like someone tells me I don't want to be called this, I want to be called that, I'm just gonna call them that. Like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter how I feel about it. I'm not those people. It's not my. It's not. I don't have a say in that, right?
But yeah, just a very long side note on side note on side note.
Yes, thank you. No, but thank you for talking for that. That is very important. So thank you.
Thank you for listening and for having this conversation with me, even though we were recording for an episode.
Yes.
So yeah, moving on to developmental disorders. So this is something that was kind of brought up after we published episode 1 of our podcast, which is about Rui's potential autism spectrum disorder. So there are, I would say, attempts at portrayal. For example, he sits pretty far away from people. He is always leaning on a railing or a wall. There's some light stimming from time to time. If you don't know what stimming is, it's kind of like an uncontrollable movement that sometimes people with ASD do as a response to stimulation. And Rui's special interest is violin, even though this never happened in season 1. We only see this in season 2. So we think it's an attempt. But at the same time, he is quite manipulative and like doesn't seem to bother eye contact. And don't get me wrong here, people with ASD, some people are fine with eye contact and some people mask, but like Rui doesn't show it. If he's masking, he's masking really well.
Like, he gets up in people's faces sometimes. Like I remember he would just like get all up in Scooshy's face, get really close to her, looking right at her, like quite a few times.
Yeah. But like it can't be kind of hard to refer to it. The psychology community is still kind of like in the air about what to call it, but what was previously known as Asperger's syndrome is also a possibility, but the manipulation is, I would say, not a typical trait of people with what was referred to as Asperger's syndrome. But like neither of us are licensed therapists or anything like that. We can only speculate. And like gather research, like mostly online from people both autistic and neurotypical who like kind of speculate about it, and like also the manga kind of talked about it a bit, but in a very weird way. I think it was the quote was something like, yeah, when he had that accident he turned autistic, and I was like from what I know of autism spectrum disorder, I don't think that's how it works.
I mean, to be fair, this came out in the 90s. The manga came out in like 1992 or something. So, I mean, I'm sure the language they had back then was like, I mean, I remember when people were like, "Oh, you choose to be gay," like that was a thing. I remember that. I remember when people were like, "Oh, you have to choose it" or something. Like like people had very different ideas back in the day. So I will give it a little bit of slack for that. I mean, it's still really funny and like just kind of ridiculous, but I will give it a little bit of slack because it came out in the 90s.
Yeah, I get that,
yeah.
but like for the very same reason, like we can only speculate because like they didn't explicitly acknowledge it even in season 2.
No.
Like they attempted to show it, but they still didn't explicitly acknowledge it. And I stand by what I said in season 1, which is there is no acknowledged neuro divergency. No, wait, no, that sounds weird.
Oh, also there's something else I just thought of.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Actually, there's 2 things. So the violin is a part of like the manga and just his character in general. So I don't know if that's like them trying to show he's autistic or if that's just like, well, this character plays violin, so he needs to play violin. I feel like that was just kind of shoehorned in because like that's what he's supposed to. That's his his character in general is just supposed to be able to play the violin and play it really well. So I don't know if it has anything to do with that, honestly.
Well, many people with ASD do have like special interests. Like they get fixated sounds wrong. They have a very strong interest in one particular
He does play it a lot in season 2. Like it's like he's every time we see him he's just like playing it. So it's possible that they could be trying to show that is very possible, but I also know that like just in general in the series that's what his character does. So I don't know, it could be that, it could be not that, it could be both. It could be a little bit of they're showing he has special interest, but also his character plays violin, so he needs to play violin. Maybe they didn't play enough in season 1, and they were like, he needs to play more. He needs to play more violin. And also, I wanted to say one more thing. I wanted to say is that if people like who do have these like developmental disorders or like are on the spectrum, like if they feel like this represents them and they feel like some kind of joy at seeing someone who is on the spectrum, I think that's great. I think that's great. If they feel seen or represented, I think that's totally fine. If they want to say he's on the spectrum, fine. Be my guest. Like, it's...
And I don't want to compare, like, things like this, but it feels just a little bit, like when we were grasping at straws about like Tsukushi wearing the Rocky Horror Picture Show shirt.
It's not that bad. It can't be that bad.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
That is bad. Like that is like really grasping. That is a joke.
Yeah. Moving back to what we are supposed to be talking about. Another developmental disorder is, some of you, actually I'm not gonna say that, some people might not be aware that dyslexia is a developmental disorder. Not a bad thing, it's just a thing. So we're gonna talk about Tsukasa's possible dyslexia. Like, in this season 2, he is always mixing up words and sayings in Japanese, and like it's still often played for laughs. And going to just stick a small, not even a side note, more like a post-it that will just tell everyone that when we do F4 Thailand, we're definitely gonna talk about this.
Ooh. Juicy.
No, it was your idea.
I know. But I'm just saying. I just wanted to react. Okay. Okay. All right. Then let's move on to mental health, which there is a lot of. So first of all, we've already talked about a lot of these things, but for example, the small business CEO who attempts to commit suicide. That's quite a big thing to kind of put in a show. And like, I mean, I understand, and like I know they want to show these things because these things do happen. I'm of course but I felt the way it was handled was like maybe not the best way, because the thing is, the CEO, he like has this idea and no one is like, you know, like what Tanya said before, like no one's like really paying attention to it. And so he's like, okay, well, I guess I should end my life. And luckily, you know, Scooshy is there to talk him out of it. And he's able to like, you know, recover because, you know, she's so poor and he feels, you know, like, well, at least I'm not as bad as her. But like, it's like, I feel like things like mental health and like, you know, like suicide they're kind of just seen as these like, it's like, okay, he tried to commit suicide, but now he has people who are buying his business, and so now he's totally fine, and we never have to check up on him or talk to him ever again because, like, you know, that was just that one thing, and he's never gonna try and attempt again, or he's never gonna have any of these feelings again. And it's like, you know, they don't look at the actual like things behind it. It's like, okay, well, people didn't accept his idea, so now he must commit suicide. And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of a really simple solution for a very complicated issue. like I don't know, like just the way it was portrayed was just so like, just like, well, you know, he's got the business now, everyone likes it, and he's, you know, making money, so he's fine, and he's totally fine now. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's how you solve mental illness. Just like, you know, if you have mental health problems, just like get some money and you're cool. You'll never have any of these problems ever again. Yay.
Debatable.
Yes.
Reminds me of that meme where someone was talking to like a person that's going through depression, and they were like, how are you always so sad? There's so much to live for.
Mm-hmm.
And the person responds, how do you have asthma? Like, there's so much air.
You can't just bring this in here. Oh my god, I'm gonna like die. Oh god, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I love memes.
Oh my god, it's great. It's so good. I have asthma. Oh my god. Oh my god, that is so great. Oh my god, I need this. Send me this meme. I need it.
Will do.
I need. Oh my god. That's amazing. Okay. Okay. So like the thing is though, like there's just never any other options. It's always just like, okay, we fix this one problem that is causing this, you know, you don't want to commit suicide, and then it's done. It's never like, maybe you should see a therapist. Maybe you should get some help, because, you know, it's very stigmatized here in Japan, even now still. And so, you know, this businessman is probably not going to seek therapy, even though now he has a lot of money because, you know, all these businesses are interested in his stuff now, right? But like, he's probably never going to get therapy. He's probably never going to talk about his issues ever again. And it's just, I know it's a 2008 drama, so I'm asking for too much, I guess. But like, it's just like, it would have been nice to have like, you know, because so many traumatic things happen in this show and no one like has time to really process it. They just keep moving on like it's nothing. And people are just supposed to just get over it and be tough, right? Well, it's like, well, people have it worse than you. And it's like, that's the worst thing to tell someone who's committed suicide, actually. Mm-hmm. Like in real life. In real life, when people are really committing suicide, the worst thing you can do is say, oh, well, your situation isn't that bad. My situation is worse. Like, you, like that's like the worst thing. Like,
yeah.
That does not work.
No, it does not. No.
I'm sorry. No. I just had to comment on that. I was just like, this is the word. Please do not say it. Please, in real life, please do not do that. if you're trying to talk someone out of committing suicide, please do not make them feel like, you know, their thing, whatever they're upset about, is not as important or worth it or as bad as your life or whoever's life you're trying to compare them to, because like, that is not going to work. Please don't do that.
Yes.
Next, let's move on to the physical abuse, which is also quite prevalent in this show. I mean, besides Tsukasa, like, just beating the shit out of people on the streets, randos on the street, you know, just because he's angry. He also destroys an entire lunchroom based on his hurt feelings / rage. So pretty much he indirectly blames Scooshy, because I guess he was upset because she did something. I don't know. Maybe it was because Rui kissed her or something. I have no idea. I don't remember. But like, it was something she did that he was upset about. And so he trashed the lunchroom. Or maybe she didn't return his feelings or something. Jesus. I don't know. But I don't remember. I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry. It wasn't that long ago, but I've already forgotten. But anyway, like, he did something Scooshy did. Probably broke his heart to him. Like, said something that wasn't like, I want to be with you right now. And so he trashed the entire lunchroom. And then they just made a new one.
Because they got money. They got money, Faith.
And he threw stuff around. Like, people were there. Like, people were there in the lunchroom while he was doing it. And so, like, there were people who could have gotten really hurt. But, like, you know, he's rich. He's really super rich. So
he's like, no, I aimed for the center. No one's supposed to be in the center.
Pretty much. Like, it was awful. It was really, really horrifying to watch, actually. And then, of course, you know, there's not just physical abuse, there's also emotional abuse and neglect, which we've talked about already quite a bit. So yeah, Scooshi should be suffering from trauma, but never does. She's been kidnapped several times. She's, you know, had to deal with all this crap. Like, her parents have, like, pretty much left her to fend for herself. She has to, like, work multiple jobs just to survive. You know, she's still going to this really elite school where, like, she has to do her schoolwork and, like, function as a normal kid, but also do all these other things. But yeah, we never, like, she, you know, she's sad sometimes, but we never see any, like, permanent, like, trauma or, like, you know, anything really. Like, it's like she kind of just, like, is sad, but it's like, oh, I could be with this guy I like, so I'm good. Apparently,
I think the hormones got to your head.
Right? All it takes is hormones. We'll tell you. Hormones solve everything.
So we should definitely
also
watch the Thai drama that came out a bit ago, but it's called Hormones.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's a very progressive
great.
series.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Can you believe
okay.
it, Faith?
I love that name.
They talk about teenage sex.
Oh my God.
Yes.
They mention it like with words.
Oh, it's
they
the main plot.
The word sex. Oh God. Oh my God. I gotta see this. I've got to see this. Okay. Let's just stop everything. I have to see this now. Okay. No, I'm kidding. But we should watch it at some point. Definitely. I should watch it. Okay. And then also, Kaede did something very similar to Tsubaki. We mentioned this before when she had her first love, who was also a quote unquote commoner. And so she pretty much put Tsubaki through the same emotional turmoil that she put Scooshi and Tsukasa through. So she's just a horrible mother.
And talking about horrible parents, like Scooshy's parents aren't that better. Like they're nice, but they also kind of suck.
Mm-hmm.
Like we mentioned this many times, but like they left Scooshy and her brother for a fishing village without telling her when she was in the hospital.
Yeah. Like I said, did not tell her. I mean, yes, they did it to make money, but still, you could at least let your unconscious, child know when she wakes up. Let her know. Hey, at least call her. Hello, you have a phone.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, no, they don't do that. They just leave Tsukushi and Susumu by themselves, and like I like they were already like very poor and very broke. They still left their children to fend for themselves. And the first thing that happened is they can't afford rent.
What would you think was going to happen when you leave two kids, one high schooler, one middle schooler, to fend for themselves?
No, they're gonna die. But yeah, the parents they only came back for like a very short while to like kind of congratulate Susumu for like passing his entrance exam, and like I think not sure if it's the next day or the very same day, but they left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go back. Seaweed's not gonna fish itself.
Have fun, barely surviving. And of course, Kaede, like I said, Tsukasa's mother uses Ken to do the fake suicide, and that traumatizes him, and also she tries to control him through that. So pretty much the main reason why he doesn't talk to Scooshi when she goes to visit him in New York is because he doesn't want the Domuji group to crumble and more people to lose their jobs and commit suicide like he thinks Ken did. And so because of this trauma, he doesn't talk to Scooshi anymore until he does. And but the thing is, he never tells her this. He never communicates this. It's just, well, I'm going to ignore you now until I realize, oh, actually, I still like you, so now I'm going to stalk you again. And be upset that you don't like me, even though I totally ignored you and was emotionally abusive, but, and distant.
How dare you
and
not want
neglectful,
me?
but you should still love me. How exactly? How dare you not love me? And then, anyway, so Kaede, doesn't really care about her family at all, but only wealth and power. So, like, she only cares about her family to the extent that they can make her more wealthy and give her more power. So she only cares about her kids as a way for her to expand her own wealth. So she has Tsubaki marry some guy, I think, who is I'm not sure what industry, maybe the hotel industry or something, some kind of industry, so that she could, expand into that.
Some
And then-
industry in LA.
Yeah, something. And so, like, now she's in that, and then she wants Tsukasa to marry Shigeru because they have, like, her family has, like, oil.
I think it's like
some kind of oil. They're in the oil industry or something. And so some kind of oil. Yeah, and so... Yeah, and so she wants to expand into that now, and so that's why she wants, and that's going to give them more money and help them out, because they're having some kind of financial problems apparently, and so she wants to get more money and expand into there, and so she's telling Tsukasa, trying to force Tsukasa to marry Shigeru. So it's pretty much all for herself. She doesn't care what her like kids think. She doesn't care about their feelings. She doesn't care. I mean, honestly, she doesn't even care about their lives, because, like, I remember when Tsukasa hit his head and had to go to the hospital, she didn't even go. She was like, nah, that's what he gets for, like, disobeying me. I was like, oh my god, like, what if he dies? And then even also, again, when he's out in the snow trying to save Tsukushi, she also doesn't send anyone to go get him. Because she's like, well, that's what he, that's what he gets. Pretty much that's what he gets for disobeying me. It's like, she's so cold and unfeeling. Like, she is literally the worst person in the world. So bad. She is so horrible. Like, she says, oh, well, he can come to me and beg for forgiveness or whatever. Like, she has so much pride, and she's just like, she just doesn't care. She only wants the kids to do what she wants, and if they don't, then she doesn't care about them anymore. And she even tells Tsukasa, because he leaves and goes to the fishing village to be with Tsukushi, that he's gonna, like, disown him. But she says, oh, you're disowned now. Like, she literally disowns him. Of course, when the CEO guy, the small company CEO, comes to her with that, like, AI, whatever idea, and she knows that that'll make her a lot of money, and she finds out that the only reason he knew about her was because he heard that Tsukushi and Tsukasa were getting married, or they were engaged or something, and so that's why he came to her. Then she finally is like, okay, I'll approve of Tsukushi. You guys can get married, and you can be my son again, and you're not disinherited.
I thought it was a deal. Like, the guy was like, if your son marries this girl, I'm going to like make a deal with you. If not, then goodbye.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was ultimatum. So she had no choice. She had to approve of Tsukushi, or else she wouldn't get the money, get his money, pretty much get his product that would result in more money. And so because she needed it so badly, she was like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll approve her. So it was literally all about money the entire time. Like, there was no other reason. It wasn't like her heart was better, like, she, it wasn't like they won her over, or it wasn't like she, felt some empathy for other people. It was literally like, okay, I have some money, this will give me more money. If I have to, let my son marry this commoner to get money, okay, fine, I'll do it. I mean, it's enough money to make it worth it, I guess. Like, it's literally all about money, and it's just so sad, honestly, because it's like, she doesn't even care about parents at all. But, like, for me, it's like, as Tsukushi, though, I'm like, do you really want to marry into that family? Like, she's going to be a nightmare. She's already been a nightmare this whole time. Do you think she's going to stop just because you're married?
She's going to make her marriage life horrible.
Yeah, it's going to be miserable. Like, oh my god. Okay, have fun with that.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to want to do that. But yeah. Another thing that's, like, kind of like a problematic thing is that, like, the people in this drama have this mentality of, oh, I gotta suffer on the inside and maybe hurt the other person because I want to protect them. Like, talk to me. And I'm going to say the B word here, but talk to me, bitch! People just do things, like, of their own accord without even communicating to the person involved.
Yes. So often. It's like, if they would have just communicated, it would have been totally fine.
No. They're like, how do you spell communication? like with 4 M's.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty. They're just like, wow, communication. What's that? And I get it. They're young and naive, but at the same time, it's everybody. It's not just even the kids. Like the adults are doing this too. Everyone is just like, I'm not going to tell my real feelings. I'm not going to say what's really in my mind. I'm going to hide it because that's going to protect them, whatever that means. And then it ends up blowing up in their face every single time. And it's like, haven't you learned? Like, just communicate. If you're having trauma, tell your girlfriend who you claim to love so much, hey, I saw someone commit suicide.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like suffering right now, you know? Let her know. She had to find out from your freaking secretary. Like, oh my God. That would be a breakup for me. I'd be like, no, you can't even tell me this. I mean, like, no, I get it. It's a traumatic experience. It's hard. But you totally distance yourself away from me. Ignore me for like the first half of the season, you know? Like, barely talk to me. Then it's all of a sudden like, oh, we should be together and I love you and you should love me even though I totally ignored you. And like no, give me something. Even if you don't tell me all the details, just say, okay, I had a traumatic experience. I'm just not in the right place right now. Please give me some time.
And the response will probably like,
that's fine.
Yeah, is there a way I can, is there somehow like a way I can like help you, support you? Like, if not, how, would you like me to like leave you alone? Stuff like that. You know, it's a communication. It's a conversation that like people really ought to have in this series and many dramas.
You know how many things could be solved if there was just actual conversations in the show?
Yeah.
Like just talking, like communicating.
And therapy, yes.
Having conversation and therapy.
Like, as a kid, I wouldn't say kid, like as a teenager, I remember myself having like communication issues too. No thanks, or maybe all thanks to Thai dramas.
See, this is where you learned it, Wataya. This is where you learned not to communicate.
Thankfully, like, I over-communicate now, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is better than not saying anything at all. And also, as in season 1, there were no fat people that I could see, that I remember at least. There were no fat people in season 2 either. Yeah, like we said in season 1, for the season 1, you know, episode of this, please let us know if you saw any fat characters in Hana Yori Dango 2, because I don't remember them. And I watched it very recently, and I can't remember one. And if there was one, it was someone who was not named, because I just, I don't think there's any fat people, so. You know, it's like, I'm not saying every drama has to have like a bunch of fat people, but to have no fat people,
at least acknowledge that like fat people do exist.
It's like, we're out there, okay? We're here in Japan, we're here.
And like the conversation about like, you know, body image and weight and health risk benefits, stuff like that, we can have that another time. But for now, at least acknowledge that
they are there.
Yeah, that like not everyone is like skinny. But yeah, nice. This seems like a good time to wrap up. Yes. In the last section of our show, we give our overall rating for the drama as a whole based on its content, representation, and also whether or not we think it's a good drama overall.
We rate the shows on a scale of 1 to 5 kisses, with 5 being the highest and 1 the lowest. You also get to choose which character or characters you want to give your kisses to. The rating system is inspired by my favorite podcast, the Bechtolcast Nipple Scale.
So then, Faith, how many kisses would you give the show and why? And are there any characters in the series that you would like to give your kisses to?
So I actually kind of regret giving Hana Yori Dango 1 3 kisses in our first episode, because I think it's so much better than Hana Yori Dango 2, like just as a show. Like, I think it's a better, tighter show. It was fun. It felt like the exact right length. I think I should have given it like 3.5 kisses actually, or maybe even 4. I don't know. I mean, like, there's a lot of problems, but like overall it was an enjoyable show. And you know, I always like watching it, rewatching it. Every time I rewatch it, I always find it fun. But since I did give it 3 kisses, I'm going to give Hana Yori Dango 2 2.75
Very
kisses.
specific. I love it.
Yes. Yes. So I still liked the story and enjoyed it overall, but it just wasn't as good as I remember it being when I rewatched it. Like, even just 2 years ago, I rewatched it and I thought it was better than this. But like, I don't know. Like when I watched it this time, I was like, oh my god, this totally, like, I just don't remember it dragging this much. Like, it just was drag. I just remember feeling like, and it's not even that long. It's only like 11 episodes, like, which is really short for like drama. Like, you know, maybe not for a Japanese drama, but for like, you know, I'm watching a lot of Korean dramas, you know, lately, and they're at least like 16 to 20 episodes, and other, you know, I'm sure other Asian dramas are even longer. You know, there's like way longer stories. Like when I watched Meteor Garden, it was like what, almost 50 episodes. It was
Oh,
like 49
my
episodes,
lord.
like quite long. You know. But this one was shorter, and don't get me wrong, it didn't drag as much as Meteor Garden. Meteor Garden did drag a lot, but but it still dragged for 11 episodes. It should not drag if it's 11 episodes, right? You should be able to get all the stuff in the story. I should be entertained the entire time, but it was just like, I don't know. I think it was mostly due to just the original story, because they just like kept putting. The story just keeps putting Tsukushi in very similar but slightly different situations to test her resolve, quote unquote. And it just gets to a point where you're like, okay, we get it already. She's strong. Okay, cool. Like, you know, she's tough. Like, okay, whatever. It's like literally they have to test her every single episode, and sometimes like 2 or 3 times an episode. Like, it feels like there's just always like, okay, well, you gotten through that, Tsukushi. Now you're gonna get through this, and it's just like, oh god. And then they have like, you know, her and Tsukasa breaking up and getting back together like pretty much every episode, like we mentioned before. They get back, they break up. It's like they start the episode together, they break up by the end, or they break up, you know, in the end, and then they end up back together by the they break up in the beginning and then they end up back together at the end or something. Like, it's just all over the place. And so, like, you know, they kept doing it so many times. I just wanted to scream. Like, I was like, oh my god, please just stop. Either be together or don't be together. Just choose one. Like, please just stop. I don't care which one. Just one. Just do it. And, you know, I am so glad it was only 11 episodes, because if it was longer than that, I think I would have just like, I don't know. I think my head would have exploded. So I don't know what I would have done. Yeah, I'll give it 2.75 kisses, and I'm giving all my kisses to the black extras who deserve better roles in this show. So I will split it evenly. It won't be like a full kiss for everyone, but I will give it to all of them. You know, I'll give it to the black gang, basketball gang. I'll give it to the random gangsters on the street, thugs, gangsters, whatever, quotes on the street. I'll give it to the you know, the chocolate chef, you know, for representing us. And also we'll give it to the, you know, thief who did the 180 turn while he was still in the bag. This is for you. This goes out to all of you all.
Oh my god.
But what about you, Watanya? How many kisses are you giving it? And who or what? Because it seems like there's always a what for you. Are you giving them to?
What? I always it's just that I've always given my kisses to like the singers of the theme songs.
Ah, okay. I thought you gave it to the song. So I was like, I thought it was a what, like the song. But yeah, you're right. It's the singers, right?
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. It was hard to watch. I was not very entertained. Like Hana Yori Dango 1, I had fun. There were like, you know, a bunch of tropes and problematic things, but it was entertaining. Mm-hmm. This one was not entertaining. Like more often than not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I'm thinking about giving it like 2, maybe 2.5 kisses. Gonna go with 2. I'm sorry.
It's fine. Yeah. I noticed like, it was not as good.
Yeah. Like you said, like all the things that you said, except the rewatching part, because I did not rewatch it. Oh god. It just felt like it was so dragging. It was not fun. Communication issues. Mm-hmm. it was a mess.
Oh yeah, it was a hot mess. Like, I mean, and also Scooshy, like the character that we had grown to love, was just so pitiful in it. Like, she was just always sad and moping around. I get it. She has a lot of bad stuff happening to her, but it's like, she's supposed to be the tough character who's like, okay, I can do whatever. And I'm not saying she should have to be that way, but she's just like, oh no, I don't know. I want to be with him, but I don't. But oh, what do I do? And it's just like, it's just not fun to watch. Like,
No.
I don't want to watch that.
But yeah, that's my reason. And the people I want to give kisses to, I didn't particularly enjoy the theme song.
Oh no, I love that theme song. Utada Hikaru.
I love Utada Hikaru, but I wasn't feeling that song.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, the two people that like kind of made it bearable, not necessarily the characters, but the people.
Yes.
The actress, Mao Inoue.
Yeah, she's great.
I'm gonna give her one kiss, and because Utada Hikaru, I like her. I like them as an artist, a singer.
Okay, but not the
I'm gonna
song.
give them my other kiss. Because like, no, not
Okay,
that song.
Okay.
I like
All
their
right.
other songs.
I'll forgive that. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So then in this next section, we will be saying our recommendations for the show. Pretty much, would we recommend it? Would we not? For me, as I said in our first episode, I would recommend this series to someone who is either new to Asian dramas or is like interested in where a lot of the tropes in a lot of these like dramas come from, or is studying classic Asian dramas for research purposes. I think that's pretty much the people I would recommend this to. What about you? What, Tanya?
Watching it as an adult, like, or a young adult, I wouldn't want to recommend it to a friend who's like watching for fun. Like, even if you are curious as to what happens after Hana Yori Dango season 1, like, it's better to end with that kiss, with the sunset.
That is a really good ending, actually.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah, like the marriage thing, depending on how you feel about public proposals. Yeah. And unless you wanna watch classic Asian dramas for research purposes, I would recommend like the first season more. But like if they wanted to like research like more things, or like if they wanted to research sequels, it would be a good one. Yeah, but other than that, no, it's a bit too dragging, and it's only 11 episodes.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, like, you really gotta be dragging to like make 11 episodes feel long. Like, that's so short. Oh my goodness. Also, here's a reminder of warnings, content or otherwise, for those of you who do choose to watch. Of course, we will not judge you. We watched both of these seasons. I've watched them several times, so
yeah,
I can't judge.
But like, just for the record, here's a content warning. Let me see this list: parental neglect, bullying, manipulation, attempted sexual assault, fake suicide, and actual attempted suicide.
Also, Tsukasa's behavior might bring up some not so pleasant memories in survivors of abusive relationships. And that's the end of our discussion on Hana Yori Dango 2. Thanks so much for joining us.
If you would like to contact us, please email us at kiss.accidental@gmail.com.
You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Accidental Kiss.
You can also follow us on Twitter at kiss_accidental and on Instagram at accidental kiss.
Let us know if you have any other Asian drama series you'd like us to cover on the show. Your suggestion might make it into a future episode.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be looking at the Korean drama Her Private Life.
Until then, see you!
See you! Stuck in an elevator where everything's a miss. Forced to marry the first guy you accidentally kiss. Betrayed by your only friend. So she can get the guy. The reasons above and more are why. The way we feel about Asian dramas is just so complicated. It is so complicated.